Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So this is the Xiaomi Pad 7, the company's newest tablet that just launched internationally at the Mobile World Congress in Spain. Now, I don't know the official global price of this guy yet at the time of me making this video, although by the time you're watching the video, the prices will probably be out, so I'll have it in the description below. But I can probably guess the price because this guy already launched in China a couple of weeks ago and we're at the China price. So Xiaomi Pad 7 starts in China at about 280 US dollars. This is converted from the China price for the lowest 8GB RAM, 128GB model. Now you're probably going to want to get at least 256GB storage. And I believe that unit retails in China for about converted 320 US dollars. Now we know in Europe there's going to be a markup due to import duties when you sell things to Europe, and also all the middlemen like distributors, they will take a cut. So in Europe, I'm guessing it's going to get a sizable markup. I would guess right now this tablet is probably around 400 bucks if you buy this in Asia, and maybe like 450 or 499 in Europe. Now for that, what do you get? You have an 11-inch 144 hertz display. Now unfortunately this is just an LCD panel, but it gets up to 800 nits of max brightness, which is pretty good for a tablet of this price range. And you can see even outside, I can see the screen very clearly. The screen looks really good when you're indoors, but it is very reflective. As you can see in some of these footage here, I'm using it at a coffee shop with a lot of windows and it's very reflective. Now, I do know that in China and in India, Xiaomi is selling a version with a nano texture coating that gives it like a matte coating, and it's awesome. I don't know if that is selling in Europe or throughout other regions, but in China and India, it's basically like an extra 80 US dollars, and I definitely think it's worth it because particularly if you use this by a window a lot, it is very reflective. But in a controlled environment, the screen is really good. And you also have 4 speakers, 2 on each side, that pump out symmetrical stereo sound. Now the speakers are good for this $300, $400 price range.
Conference after the season, and both sides.
I'm surprised you haven't totally lost your fighting spirit.
Powering the tablet is a Snapdragon 7S Gen 3. This is an upper mid-tier chip from Qualcomm, and I believe it is about equivalent in power to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which was the flagship chip of 2023, if my math is correct. So that means this is still a very capable chip that was considered absolute top tier just 2 years ago. So for any productivity task, you can have absolutely no issue. Like if you're just using this to send emails, do video calls, absolutely fine. The thing performs zippily. If you play graphically intensive games like Devil May Cry, you can still play at a steady frame rate, but not at the highest graphics setting. You can play at the highest graphics setting, but then you'll see a little bit choppiness. Like not too bad. I'll cover this a little bit more later. And also, I tried video editing on this guy using CapCut, and it was okay. You can see here I have 2 different 4K video tracks. I can scrub through the timeline without noticeable lag. I would say it's not as smooth as scrubbing through like my $1,000 iPad Pro, but it is still very smooth, and I can still do the trims, add captions, and export a 6-minute video in about 5 minutes, which is not bad at all for a tablet that's in the $300, $400 price range. This tablet measures 6.2 millimeters in thickness, or about 1/4 of an inch, and it weighs 500 grams, or about 1.1 pounds for Americans. As for the overall design, there's not much to talk about. It's a tablet. You've seen it 1,000 times. Unibody aluminum build. The front, relatively thin bezels wrapping the LCD screen. You do have a 8-megapixel webcam on the front and a 13-megapixel camera on the back side. So, not much more to talk about in terms of hardware. It is what it is. It gets the job done. But you guys know my stance, right? I think modern day flagships are too powerful and too capable to just use as a handheld machine. You will want to pair it with a keyboard, and Xiaomi has 2 this year. So Xiaomi has a pretty standard Pro keyboard. This is like every other Android tablet keyboard that you have seen. It just snaps onto the backfire magnetic pogo pin, and it only props up the tablet at one angle. So it's really lightweight, but you've seen this before. Instead, the star of the show is this new Xiaomi Focus keyboard that unfortunately looks exactly like Apple's Magic Keyboard. And in fact, I usually defend Xiaomi against accusations of copying. I've been on Twitter arguing with people before. But if people were to say this is a complete copy of the Magic Keyboard, I cannot deny. I mean, let's look at it. So this is the official Magic Keyboard from Apple, and this is the Xiaomi Focus Keyboard. From the way the hinge works to the way it props up a tablet, this hardware engineering, it's almost exactly like Apple's Magic Keyboard. But hey, I'm gonna take a moment right now to go on a tangent about copying. So if you don't care about any of that, feel free to skip to this time where I will continue on with the review. But if you're interested, I have some thoughts on this whole like copying thing. So basically, Xiaomi is a company that's been called a copycat of iPhones and Apples for as long as it has existed, like probably 15 years now. But the thing is, initially, when Xiaomi first started, I don't think they would even try to deny that claim, because when Xiaomi started, they were very clearly a company that was inspired by Apple. In fact, in 2012, Xiaomi's boss, Lei Jun, he gave an interview saying that Steve Jobs is like the best, and Steve Jobs is basically nobody can surpass him. That as long as Steve Jobs was alive, and Steve Jobs were basically unbeatable. This is coming from Lei Jun. And a lot of other Chinese company CEOs have said something similar. Like, this is the thing. Like, in Chinese companies, most of them are very openly fans of Apple. So when they copy Apple, they're just basically almost like, hey, we aspire to be this, so we're gonna follow in this direction. Does it make it right? I don't know. It's up for debate. I do think this method, it's a little bit better than Samsung and Google's method, which is they pretend they're snarky about Apple. You know, like Samsung would take out marketing campaigns that poke fun at Apple, but then turn around and copy Apple anyway, because there's a lot of elements in Samsung and Pixel phones right now that's just a complete copy of the iPhone too. So the reality is everybody copies. At least the Chinese brands are more open about who they're inspired by. Now, the second thing I want to say is basically in every industry, everybody copies. Once one consumer product or consumer trend becomes so popular, so mainstream that competitors have to follow in that direction if they want to have any business. Like, for example, in sneakers, Nike's Air Jordans and Converse's Chucks, you know, two of the most iconic sneakers around, they've been around for decades. And now if you go into every sneaker store, you're going to see shoes that look like Air Jordans or Converses. So they're clearly following that direction. And it's not just small no-name brands that are copying. Like even in high fashion, I've seen some of these like LV or Balenciaga sneakers, and they're just a complete copy of Nike's Air Jordans. In every industry, in music, people take inspiration from past music all the time. In cinema, I'm a big film buff. Like when Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction came out, that inspired a bunch of movies that followed in that style with the snappy dialogue and the non-chronological storytelling. And in fact, Quentin Tarantino himself copied a lot of Hong Kong cinema. His first film, Reservoir Dogs, was a complete copy of a Hong Kong movie called City on Fire. You can look it up. Some of the scenes are identical. So what I'm trying to say is everybody copies. And don't think Apple's immune too, because I know for a fact inside Apple's camera department, they look at what Huawei is doing with the larger sensors and a variable aperture. Trust me, I've been to Apple campus. So basically everybody copies, but I actually don't think that's a bad thing, because if you're copying something that's great, it's awesome. Like Google copying the iPhone's navigating system actually worked in all of our favors, because the previous Android navigation system, that pill navigation, was absolute terrible. So I'm glad Google copied the iPhone, and I'm glad Xiaomi copied the Magic Keyboard here, because the Magic Keyboard is awesome. I like that it props up the tablet a little bit off the tabletop, so you don't have to crane your neck down as much. I like that you can use this on your lap very easily, better than most other Android keyboards. So this is an excellent design that Xiaomi followed, but at least Xiaomi is giving it to us in a much better price than Apple, because as much as I love Apple's Magic Keyboard, I can never really justify anyone to actually go out to buy one, because Apple's selling the Magic Keyboard for $300 US. Like, it is insane to me. A keyboard, like a thing without a chip, without a screen, without any new like AI technology, costs $300. Like, you can buy a whole smartphone for that. So anyway, Xiaomi's selling their Focus keyboard at just about $100. At least this is the price in China. I don't know how much it'll cost in Europe, but let's say 120 to 150. It's a much more reasonable price than $300. I've been using this guy to type on the go a lot. It's not super light, but it's lighter than my iPad Pro or any of my laptop setups. So this tablet, it's 1.1 pounds. This keyboard, it's 1.2 pounds. So I think combined they're 2.3 pounds. So, you know, not the lightest around, but light enough that I can have this in my backpack all day. And I've been doing a lot of typing, writing work on this, including writing the script of this review. I wrote this outside of the coffee shop over 2 or 3 afternoons. And like I said, I also edit videos on this. Now, I don't think I will want to edit my entire YouTube video on this tablet. I think it can be done, but I just think the exporting process will take a long time. And CapCut, it's a software that I still find not as intuitive as Final Cut Pro. I'm just used to using Final Cut Pro. But I did edit a 6-minute video on here, and it exported in 5 minutes, and all the graphics overlay that I did worked fine. So if I really want to, I can do all my work on this guy. I just prefer to use something a little bit more powerful when I'm editing videos. But otherwise, if you're not a YouTuber making videos, if you're using this to send emails, write words, do video calls, this is absolutely perfectly fine. The front-facing webcam, as you can see here, is pretty serviceable, pretty good. Front-facing camera footage with the Xiaomi Pad 7. How do I look? How do I sound right now? Looks really good though. You see it's exposing for my face properly. It's not like it's blowing out the sky, but it's okay because it's a webcam for a tablet. You want to expose for the face, not for the background. As for the rear facing camera, 13 megapixel, it's fine. Like, I'm not gonna use this tablet camera to take street photography. I think for the most part, you're just gonna use this to maybe scan documents and grab a quick picture to reference something, and it's fine. If at this price point, no complaints at all. Now, in terms of software, this guy runs HyperOS 2.0.5, and this is the global version, so it comes with the full suite of Google apps pre-installed, as well as native support of Google Gemini, meaning if you long press on the power button, Gemini kicks in, not one of those Chinese digital assistants. Xiaomi's OS is very intuitive. As a productivity machine, I really like its navigation system. So when you open an app, you have 3 dots at the top, but after you tap on the 3 dots, you get this little sub-menu that allows you to quickly shove that app to half the screen. That allows you to then open another app into split screen. And once you have 2 apps in split screen mode, you can also drag the slider to resize, to have one app bigger than the other. You can also have a 3rd app in floating window mode, or you can launch any app in floating window mode immediately. And it's very intuitive. I like that when you have an app in a floating window, you can swipe that app off the screen like that and still continue on with your work. If you want to bring that app back, just tap on the little transparent panel and the window comes back into play. So I find this multitasking gesture very useful. But on top of that, Xiaomi is also introducing a new desktop mode. The reason I put quote marks is because we actually have seen this mode before in the Xiaomi Mix Fold, the first one, but then it disappeared after that. Like, it was not in the Mix Fold 2 or 3. But basically, you toggle it by going to the control center, you tap right here, it will then launch all your apps in a smaller resizable floating window like you would be on a desktop. You can open 4 apps at the same time. Now, I do find this screen, 11 inch, is a little bit small to run 4 apps, but you can output to an external monitor. So if you output to a much larger screen or a pair of AR glasses, then you can run 4 apps at the same time perfectly fine. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of work on this machine over the past week. Now, there are also AI features because it's 2025. So you have circle to search here. Just long press on the navigation bar, circle any part of the screen to immediately do a Google search. You also have Xiaomi's built-in AI, like AI live interpretation. You can record a memo. You can convert that memo to any other language. You also have AI object eraser, which uses generative AI to remove something from a picture and then recreate new pixels in its place. Now, there's also a stylus I haven't really talked about yet. This is the Xiaomi Focus Pen. It retails for around $70, $80. It works just like any other Android tablet stylus, meaning it works very well. You don't see like noticeable latency, but overall, it's just not as intuitive as the Apple Pencil. Like, for example, with the Apple Pencil, I can shade by putting the stylus like this on the screen. You cannot do that here. It does sense varying levels of pressures, and as you can see here, I can still sketch pretty well without like noticeable lag. So it's a fully functional stylus for you to draw or jot down notes, and also recognizes handwriting and converts that handwriting into digital text. You can also use the stylus as like a laser pointer. Just long press on one of the buttons, and then you'll see a red dot on the screen that allows you to do a presentation, I guess. This stylus charges magnetically. You just attach it to the top of the tablet, just like an iPad, and then You attach it to the keyboard and you have yourself a fully formed, fully functional on-the-go work machine that really can do a lot of the same stuff that the iPad does, but in a much more affordable package. Now, as for battery life, there's an 8,500 milliamp hour battery in here, I believe, and battery life's been good. Like today, I took this machine fully charged outside to a coffee shop. I worked for 2 hours, and I still have 75% battery right now. So that means this guy can go at least 8 hours for my usage, which is a lot of word processing, a lot of like jumping between apps, and also streaming Spotify in the background. Like 8 hours for active use. If you're using it to watch YouTube videos, you can expect it to go probably like 12, 13 hours. And to charge a tablet, this guy supports 67 watt fast charging, but because this is a larger battery, it will take you like well over an hour and a half to charge from 0 to full. So yeah, this is the Xiaomi Pad 7 Global Edition. Again, as I said, unfortunately, I don't know the official price, but I am guessing you can probably get this entire package with the Focus keyboard, tablet, and the pen in Europe for probably under, I want to say under 700 euro. And then in Asia, like if you're in Hong Kong, you can probably get this whole set for like under 600 US dollars, like around 550, something like that. It's just a guess. That's a lot lower than the Apple version, which no matter the configuration, if you're buying the Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil, it's gonna cost you at least close to 1,000 US dollars, if not significantly over. Now, is this guy as powerful as an iPad? Of course not. Apple Silicon is way more powerful than the Snapdragon 7S Gen 3, but you will only notice that in heavy gaming and heavy video editing. Otherwise, if you're just sending emails, watching Netflix, going on like Google Chrome and reading websites, they're all going to perform fine. And this guy can get the job done for most people. I think this is a very good alternative to people who don't want to use the iPad for whatever reason. It could be because the price is too high, or maybe they're just all in on Android, Google's ecosystem. They're loyal to Android. Then this is worth a look. I think you're getting a better value here than Samsung's Tab Ultra. Now, the OnePlus Pad is also very, very good, and you get a slightly better Qualcomm chip, 8 Gen 3, I believe. But I like the keyboard here better than the OnePlus keyboard. So this is probably the best overall value play right now in the tablet scene. So yeah, that's about it for this review of the Xiaomi Pad 7. If you're interested in more videos like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. It will help me a lot. And I have the Xiaomi 15 Ultra with me, so a lot of videos are going to roll out soon on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and a bunch of other devices, so stay tuned. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.